In India, you cannot escape health because you are either destined to be a care seeker or you're destined to be a caregiver to someone else. Health is a very lonely journey. You are addressing your individual health, but you can totally be part of a journey where everyone is addressing the individual health. So that didn't really exist a lot in India. And what we realized, large scale employers, which employ a lot of people, have that unique opportunity to do that.
In our community, who are custodians of the employee well-being part of things, many of them are also a little frustrated because they feel that they're able to take the horse to the water, but the horse doesn't drink, and they're able to make all the investments and put programs, and yet people don't want to change.
What is the point of training people if they're going to leave, and if you don't train them and they stay? Now you've got a deteriorating individual that may be with you for a very long period of time, and that's going to affect everyone. It's going to affect the employer, it's going to affect productivity, it's going to affect the employee, their families, everyone, right? So health doesn't discriminate, okay? It comes for everyone.
We humans at the end of it, right? We want someone to sort of show that care to us. And while we have all the digital tools, which are great, they're doing their own job, but at some places, maybe in the entire ecosystem, need those physical touch points and nudges as well.
People are simple everywhere, right? They want rewards, they want recognition, they want incentives, they want a good environment, they want good culture, they want a reason to be. We want to reward you for taking care of your health also. So we instituted these things called these Green Apple Awards, and these actual trophies that we started giving out on annual days to people who had, let's say, lost a certain amount of weight. Started something as simple and arbitrary like that. If you lose a certain amount of weight, you get a Green Apple Award. Sounded like a gimmick. Before we knew it, it became like this cult-like following.
From one CEO to all the CEOs who are watching this, what would be the message that you would want to give them? Okay, lovely. To our viewers, I have Shikhar Malhotra with me, who's the CEO of HCL Healthcare. Apart from his CEO role, he also wears multiple hats and plays multiple roles across foundations, trusts, and we'll get to know more as we go along in the conversation. But Shikhar, lovely to have you.
Thanks, Pushkar. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Walk me through your previous 2 days. You said you had a very action-packed 2 days and you came into this podcast. Is there a sneak peek we could get what looks like a day in Shikhar's life?
Yesterday was a Sunday, so it was a lot of time spent with the family at our university, which is not too far from here. So the Shivnari University in Greater Noida. So spent a lot of time with them. Had big plans, but it was all rained out. It was raining, I think, almost all day yesterday, which was lovely. So we walked around in the rain for a change, which was quite nice. And then spent a lot of the time today meeting a lot of the leadership over there, and then met a lot of students, reviewed a lot of the work, reviewed a lot of construction that's coming up. So it's a very large and very expansive campus. It's about 300 acres.
Wow.
But we're building the last set of the buildings over there, so I'm quite relieved about that. So it was a busy, hard hat, full construction gear review first half of the day today. And so I was in a completely different getup before I got here.
Wow, look at that. So on the HCL Healthcare side, Shikhar, you've been building this under the large HCL legacy. And while, many a times it could mean a lot of opportunities, it could also mean certain responsibilities and challenges. So what is the positive of building under a large umbrella? And are there some challenges as well?
I mean, there are a few challenges, but I just want to state, I don't think anyone is feeling pity for us because we're building it under the HCL umbrella. I mean, you get a big advantage and a runway with it. So the advantages certainly outweigh the challenges. I think the biggest thing is that there are always very large expectations, which is a good challenge because you, depending on your vision and the team that you have, you either rise to those expectations and surpass it, or sometimes it becomes a little too much. But the expectations are certainly there that come with the brand. There's a little bit of legacy around the brand as well, and anything with legacy has a little bit of baggage, but it's fine. I think that those things, the advantages significantly outweigh a lot of that. And look, we're very real about it that that the opportunities grossly outweigh any of these
Yeah.
small little challenges that we have, and it's a real privilege for us. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that, so to keep ourselves sort of grounded and be very focused around our mission and being very patient centric. So all of that actually falls in pretty well, all said and
Yeah.
done.
Worldwide, the data actually talks, away from what, you're sort of suggesting. So McKinsey put out a research saying that, under the umbrella organizations, only 8% startups actually progress and survive. So if you are doing well, uh, even though you're under an umbrella brand, it's not just out of that legacy, but you're definitely doing something right, something different.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I can understand why that report, and I haven't read the report, but I'm pretty sure I know what the summary of that report would
Hmm.
read like. And yeah, there are challenges, a little bit of sometimes the larger an organization, a little bit more red tape, difficult to get things done. But HCL has always been an incredible organization, nurturing of smaller experiments and ideas. And HCL itself came out of this big experiment, being an IT company, being built in North India almost half a century ago, by a South Indian in North India. I mean, it's got enough evidence of going against the grain and doing the impossible. So for us, that's all sort of within our DNA,
Yeah.
and we like it. We like a good challenge.
Super, super. Why healthcare? I'm sure, there would be many business opportunities in front of
Yeah.
you guys. Then jumping on to this and, sort of really double clicking. And I've seen you build this over the years. And it's not probably a easy thing to build in healthcare in India because it's so sensitive. So why healthcare?
Pushkar, for two reasons. The first is I feel personally very motivated to be in the healthcare space.
Okay.
So the two, I believe my life's calling really lies in healthcare and education. I think the relatability is very high, and if you're lucky enough where you figure out the areas that you want to be in, you don't ever want to leave it, right? And these are two colossal areas. I don't really need to understand a third and a fourth and a fifth, and both these areas are actually cut together quite well. So it's very people centric. There are a lot of similarities. The second is obviously the vast opportunities within healthcare in India. So when we got into it at that time, this was well before COVID.
Mm.
Um, I think if I see the extent to which India has achieved and it's done, there's still a long way to go, and there'll be plenty of more opportunities that will keep opening up for a country with over 1 billion
Yeah.
people, and it's a rising economy where the sort of the aging population, that threshold is yet to completely peak. We're still about 20-30 years away actually from that, which will start looking similar to some countries around the world. So the opportunities seem very attractive, and we wanted to do good and make good at the same time. So we wanted to try to see how we can help people and build a business in the process.
Lovely. You mentioned about insights into the Indian consumer, and many of those insights would have really helped you to shape what offerings you have, how you construct your business strategy, how you look at providing that solution. Break that down for us. What were some of those unique insights that you were able to build?
So I think the first is behavior change is extremely challenging,
Okay.
and if you take something logical and you were to present it to an individual, I think you should not overrate your ability to influence that person's thinking.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen like that. Change happens over time, and change happens over time and permanent change happens when you get a large enough group of people doing it all together at the same time, because then it becomes really an ecosystem,
Yeah.
right? And so the power is in the numbers, and health is a very lonely journey. You are addressing your individual health, but you can totally be part of a journey where everyone is addressing the individual health. So that didn't really exist a lot in India. And what we realize, employers have large scale employers which employ a lot of people have that unique opportunity to do that. If you go to a gym, you're typically on your own,
Yeah.
right? And so the dropout rates sometimes can be very high because there isn't enough there isn't enough sort of groupism to feed that
There's no
energy off
nudge,
of.
right? Like,
There's no nudge, right? And I mean, that can be done, it can be there. And so those that have achieved it have done incredibly well, because that will comes from within. But to think of it as an ecosystem, to think of it as a larger play, wasn't really there. The second thing we actually realized is that Indians are a very challenged group of aging population. So we have some of the highest disease burdens of every metabolic disease you can think of, cardiac diseases as well,
yeah,
now in cancer as well. And at the same time, our population is expected to peak around somewhere between 2050 and 2060. So you can imagine the onset of diseases which are coming our way. So wellness isn't really a privilege, right? Wellness and preventive health really needs to be a call to action. And we were betting on the fact that government, employers, a lot of other organizations will come together to make this a priority.
mm,
Nobody could have seen COVID coming.
yeah,
And I think what COVID did for our business is what it may have taken, let's say, a decade to do. And sometimes that's just luck, right? This is dumb luck. You
yeah,
just stay in the game. But it's unbelievable because the mindset shift. I've never had to explain the importance of preventive health ever
yeah,
to anyone.
yeah.
Now I just need to, tell them how to achieve it, right? And so that changed dramatically. And in this, we were talking about it earlier, and I do believe this, that in India, you cannot escape health. You cannot escape health because you are either destined to be a care seeker
Yeah.
or you're destined to be a caregiver to someone else. And so that's a reality I see in my own family also. So if someone says, you know what, I don't need a lot of this, a lot of these solutions because I live a super healthy lifestyle, the probability that you will be a caregiver to someone else is very high.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really becoming a challenge around the world. And so when you become a caregiver, it's a very different set of complex challenges, because of time and the mental pressure on you and the cost pressure and all those things. So it's really an imperative for everyone, to tackle together. And it works when a lot of people address it together rather than done in silos or a tick in the box at one time in the year.
Yeah.
It's really a way of life.
From one CEO to all the CEOs who are watching this, what would be the message that you would want to give them?
Lead by example.
Okay. Talk more. What do you mean by that?
I think that's anything in life, right? There's a friend of mine who's got much younger kids than I do. So he asked me the other day, he's like, how do I get my kids to do as I say and not do as I do? I said, well, that's a really simple answer. It's impossible. Okay. It's just never going to happen. And so if you are leading by example, that's a very powerful message, right? And I think it becomes very aspirational to a lot of people to look up. And, people respect leaders, right? People respect the CEOs of companies. They look up to you. Often you don't fully appreciate that, people are looking at you and your behavior and, things that you do to improve your lifestyle and improve your, your sort of state of being. And I think that that goes a long way. So if you are providing those resources to the employees and saying that, I'm using the same resources, invest in your health, take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones and your family, that's a great message to have. It goes a really long way. And there are numerous examples of people around the world, where it works really well.
Okay, lovely. So one part of your area of focus is the healthcare, and the other is education. If I was to look at it, Shikhar, two things which I feel India still needs to figure out is healthcare and skilling. And you've picked up both agendas. You've picked up this whole bet in that, I want to solve for both, or whatever little part that you could play as part of the growing India. What are the challenges that you see in both these segments? And if you could dwell more on the education side of things as well.
Well, as you can see, I like to beat myself up, right? So picking pretty tough challenges. Look, I think both the spaces are very interwoven because both the spaces are about habits and behavior, right? And I think human behavior, it's very logical, right? It's very emotional. It's driven a lot by by groups and by trends, and you don't typically think of a logic. If I provide the person this, and then this thing will happen. It very seldom it works like that, and often it takes a long time to see that behavior come through. So you have to stay the course. So you shouldn't lose steam if it doesn't really happen. And in my experience in building a health business and an education institution, often it takes twice as long and costs twice as much as whatever you planned. And so I got some pretty good advice a long time ago, and they said that, no plan survives contact. Okay, so don't worry about it. Just stick it out, and you'll
Mm.
find if you're doing the right thing and just sticking it out, eventually behavior does change. And in education, it works very similarly. So I think it takes a long time for educational institutions to be recognized.
Yeah.
People are cautious, they're wary, they want to see an educational institution outlive that infancy period first, right? And then out after the infancy period, when it gets a bit into sort of adolescence, then then the adopters come, and then when it gets into sort of early adulthood, that's when everyone really comes, right? So these institutions, even if you have a 20-year-old institution, it's still relatively young
Mm.
by those standards.
Are these two very different to sort of build as a CEO? Like, does your uh, focus and effort change in one of them or other? Are the cultures different? The way you go about it is different?
They are different, but I like to just remind myself that there are a lot of similarities and things are similar. It keeps life simple, because otherwise I get drawn in to very different parallels, and it can be pretty taxing. But if you think and you train yourself that, look, inherently people are simple everywhere, right?
Yeah.
They want rewards, they want recognition, they want incentives, they want a good environment, they want good culture, uh, they want a reason to be. And if they feel that they're attached to a higher mission, if they feel that it's, you're doing more than just business and there's real values attached to the organization, you actually will see incredible results. And so, that's universal. So those principles are pretty easy to build everywhere, and then similar things you can do across all organizations. So we've got some similar
Yeah.
programs that we run across, which keeps people attached and that allows us to grow along with them. And I think finally you want to make sure there's a very high level of ownership, which means they have to be given the freedom to take some risks,
Yeah.
reap the rewards, appreciate the failure, learn from it also, right? Not have it held against them. And I think once you create that, it takes time. You create those, if you create that, you find that there's like this very immeasurable energy
Yeah.
that works pretty well. And you'll have good days and bad days, but that belief remains. The belief is very long term, it's very everlasting.
Yeah. I still remember from our last conversation, I don't know how many months back that was, but you talked about all the effort that you were making for the education side of your contributors, your teachers, your academicians, and the care that you were showing for things like health insurance, things like recognition, things around building a culture. Because if that is created,
Yeah.
it's only then that they can provide that to the students.
Also to themselves.
Yes.
So, we do tell them all the time that. So actually, let me tell you the origin of this. The origin of this is really down to one or two people, and which is one is myself, the other is a colleague of mine who just retired. He was the CEO of Shipnada School. Big sport guys, big fitness guys, and so we always tell people that a healthy body goes far,
Yeah.
right? And a healthy mind goes far too. So and so the best way to actually keep yourself in shape is to keep investing in both, right? The physical and the mental aspect of it. And sometimes when the mental aspect is distressed, right, the physical body comes to support,
Mm.
right? So you need to have both always in really good shape. Now we are working with educators.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not exactly known to be athletes, right? But they're great people.
Yeah.
So how do you turn educators into being these fitness enthusiasts, right? And I'm not talking about influencers. I mean enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Like they're enthusiastic about waking up and doing something fitness related, or for themselves and their families. So then we drove a lot of programs through it. The first thing we did is that let them not worry about a rainy day mindset. So the biggest thing for teachers is that and for professors and all is that what happens if something happens to me, right? Or something happens to my family. So we provided a insurance cover to all of them, which I'm not, I don't have the data, but I'm not sure how many educational organizations do that.
Yeah.
And they told us, so a few teachers used to come and tell me, they said, it's changed my dynamics with my mother-in-law at home because she's now covered on my policy,
Wow.
right? So I always found that very amusing. And so, it says that the mother-in-laws are talking to me very differently now. So, which I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But we did that right at the beginning. So that's been about 15 years now. And then we drove a lot of programs where we said, we're going to reward you for obviously your outcomes of your work. We're going to reward you for taking care of your health also. So we instituted these things called these Green Apple Awards.
Okay.
And these actual trophies that we started giving out on annual days to people who had, let's say, lost a certain amount of weight. And it started something as simple and arbitrary like that. If you lose a certain amount of weight, you get a Green Apple Award. Sounded like a gimmick. Before we knew it, it became like this cult-like following.
Wow.
That people created an objective and they said, here's my objective for the year. I'm going to lose 8 kgs and I'm going to achieve it because the annual day is coming and I want to do that. And it's just been this unbelievable movement, right? Thousands of kilos, cumulatively lost together by all
Yeah.
of these people. We've given out hundreds of these trophies and people very proudly display them on their desk. So they want to be known as a recipient, of this award. So that's how you convert an idea into a program and finally, basically, into this following, right? And when it becomes a following, it's bigger than a program.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we really initiated. We gave them a lot of access to tools and how to do that. They got some budgets basically to pursue these things, but we had a lot of fun in doing that, right? So the real joy and the real kicker for us was in seeing the health of hundreds of these people improve together and dramatically so. And to people who thought that it never would, right? They'll never be fitness people. To see that shift in mindset was actually a pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure, and in the corporate side of things, many a times we have that, but doing this on an education institute side of things is great.
Well, that's the other thing, right? So people said, you're a university, you're a school. Why do you need to do it? And we said, well, health doesn't pick you. Okay, it's good health is gonna support you, and bad health is gonna chase you. So
True.
irrespective of where you are. So
True.
and it's amazing, the resilience that that people have shown around it helped immensely during COVID. Yeah, it was just simply amazing.
I always say this to people and there would be some day that our people would move on to doing something bigger in their careers, or something different. uh, I think people will remember us for the moments that really mattered to them, and couple of those moments are: A, how they were treated; B, were you able to add something to them as part of their learning, growth,
Yeah.
and health? Because that they will carry wherever they go. And I think as leaders and institutions, beyond just giving the salary and some of the perks associated with it, I think these are aspects that would carry with all the people that would move ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, right? And people will look back with it's hard to remember everything, but you will look back on how you felt,
Yeah.
and it'll come down to people and those particular moments where you either you exceeded your own expectations or you were part of much bigger movement.
Yeah, like for one of your team members, right? Like, for example, yes, there would be many great quarters that they would have on performance, but getting that Green Apple trophy and that
Yeah.
meaningful piece on,
Yeah.
really caring about an individual, that stands beyond.
Yeah.
Because the quarters you will forget, let's say after 10 years, 20 years, but you would remember these instances.
Yeah, so they become underappreciated, right? And these things can coexist inside companies that have nothing to do with work,
Correct.
but they are connected in some shape and form, and they're not difficult because if people are going to spend, look, our belief is if people are going to spend a third of their day with you, right? There are things that you can actually do to help them, and that's beyond work and things like that. And then I mean, it changes, right? You start looking forward to work, you
Mm.
start looking forward to doing a lot of these things. plus we were a healthcare company, so we
Yes.
had to lead also by example, and the same programs cut across HCL
Mm.
healthcare.
Now turn towards the detailing of some of the healthcare work that you do. You've been an advocate of digital, and really marrying the physical and the digital part, almost the phygital strategy, if I was to put it. Um, what have organizations got to learn in this entire space? And you mentioned about data. How much role does digital have in terms of creating this entire strategy or an ecosystem for organizations?
So more than ever, only because people are spread. There is a lot of work from home. There are
Yeah.
a lot of locations, and there's no better way to connect people, but basically through a digital platform.
Yeah.
And but I think it's not the platform; it's really what the platform can do and the capabilities that it has. So does it bind people together?
Yeah.
And are there programs in it which that people can do, because sometimes you put benefits but people aren't really driven by the benefits. What connects people is that cognitive social behavior,
Yeah.
right, of groupism and connecting people together. And so I want to do a challenge, or I want to remain connected, and that's fun, because you can take a lot of joy out of doing some of these things. So our belief is, let's come at it with a different mindset, right? And how do you bring an element of fun into something around health, which traditionally has a pretty straight-jacketed, slightly conventional view, um, not always necessarily the most experimentative. But the good thing for us is we're in preventive health, and
Yeah.
that is a very big canvas, so we can try many things. So that way we've done. We've got an app that we've rolled out. We've always had electronic records. We've used that to interpret and understand data, and the data that I shared with you about people using coming and availing mental health
Yeah.
by actually, and so those insights have only come because of the investments we made around that technology to carve that information out. Otherwise, companies do get a bad rap about workplace stress, but the reality is that there is stress at the workplace, but there is a lot of stress at home too, and that gets masked over completely in conversation. But that needs to be addressed, because the reality is it's there, and the reality is that if you didn't have data, if you didn't have some of these tools that you were deploying, you wouldn't know actually how to tackle these things.
So I've always felt that the amount of dollars that we spend on diagnostics versus the preventive action that one can take, there's a huge debate on that aspect, that how much are we spending on the diagnostics part of things versus actually working towards the preventive part of things. Where do you feel is the fine line where organizations need to draw that, we want to spend on diagnostics, but hey, why can't we actually look at programs which are helping us prevent things?
I think that's changing, because everything goes through like an evolution, right? And so when people came at it the first time, they said, let's give them some access to health insights.
Okay.
So diagnostics would hopefully do that. What they realized was, they did that, people availed it, and then they dropped the ball. The follow through didn't really
Yeah.
happen. And so diagnostics is basically a temperature check, right? It's what's going to happen after that is the real work. That's not the real work at all.
Yeah.
And so then the real work happens through care programs and awareness building. Awareness just goes a long way. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that, right? A lot of people are blissfully unaware of what is good health, what is bad health, what is a good meal, what's a bad meal. They just never really thought of it, right? And you've been 20s, okay, I've been in my 20s. You know that you're bulletproof in your
Yeah.
20s, right? You're absolutely resilient. You can put anything in your body, it doesn't make a difference. But the body keeps score.
Yeah.
And all those things start catching up. And the more
Mm.
sedentary you become, it starts catching up.
Mm.
So companies have now really actually upped the ante a lot. And they've said that we would like people to take more ownership after that. And so they're investing more into programs. They're using us to create access of these programs across, using our app, or using some platforms, basically say that I want everyone to be aware these tools are there, they can access these things, they can take ownership and take charge of their health. And I think the next stage which will also happen is that employees are going to start using a lot more data in itself.
Yeah.
So they're going to become a lot more data centric in their decision making, and they'll combine many things, from their literally number of steps they're taking to their
Yeah.
diagnostic data to understanding it, and it's going to go through this sort of evolutionary journey. But everyone's going to keep, I think, improving it. I can't ever see it regressing. Let me put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I can't ever see it regressing. I can't ever see any company out there saying, I want to spend less on health.
Hmm.
It's just not possible. So I think the good news is that things will get better. Things will get more experimentative. So we will see, which experiments work, and there'll be companies like us out there that will do a lot of this experimentation, and we'll see actually, what really works well.
What would you want organizations to experiment if given a clean canvas? If you were to say that, what, endless possibilities, uh, budgets are there, because budget also becomes a very touchy issue, especially in the India market, on how organizations look at spending in some of these areas.
I mean, you're from People Matters. You know that old saying, right? That what is the point of training people if they're going to leave, right? And if you don't train them and they stay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay? So it's the same thing with health, right? So if there are employers out there that say, well, what is the point of doing some of these programs? It'll take too long to show the results, and they're anyway going to leave. Yeah, but what if you don't and they stay? So now you've got a deteriorating individual that may be with you for a very long period of
Yeah.
time, and that's going to affect everyone. It's going to affect the employer, it's going to affect productivity, it's going to affect the employee, their families, everyone, right? So health doesn't discriminate. Okay, it comes for everyone, right? So I think companies need to be a lot more. I think they need to have a bit of a vision around this.
Okay.
So, and they should really come from the top to say, here's what I would like to do over the next, let's say, 3 years or 5 years. And many often the investments are in, tucked away in parts.
Yeah.
They don't always necessarily speak to each other. So, do they even try to compare the inpatient data to the preventive healthcare data? Try to create correlations over there. So these are all sometimes nuggets which are sitting together. They've slowly begun to speak to each other deliberately through people.
Yeah.
It can happen faster, it can happen better, and it can happen certainly in a much deeper way where they can draw correlations to say, this is what I anticipate, this is what I'm going to expect. And I think that sort of ecosystem play has to happen. So, I mentioned to you earlier is that the people working actually I think the one of the unhealthiest cohorts of people are actually in corporate India,
Mm.
right? And that's because of the sedentary lifestyle,
Yeah.
and that's because of a lot of different challenges that they're
Mm.
facing. So the Karnataka government recently announced that they're going to mandate health screenings. It'll be the first state in India to mandate health screenings for all private employees across the state. That's a big move.
Yeah.
That's a very big move, because they do it, chances are other states will take notice, and suddenly these sweeping changes will come. So it's going to become law. It's no longer going to be necessarily a benefit. So those are things to actually watch out for, because that's how a nation also suddenly changes trajectory, right? When suddenly things start becoming law around this. And so it's very interesting times to be in this space.
There's a lot that we have to cover as a nation as well. There's a lot to learn from some of the other countries as well, who've sort of mandated some of that and, sort of look at it very differently. Also, on the employee side of things, like typically in some of the developed world, you would actually negotiate on the health benefits that you get while choosing a job, right? You might actually prefer an employer over some of these benefits. Unfortunately, that's not happening in India yet. But as talent becomes a battlefield where you want the best talent to work, then you will have to sort of roll out the best environment for them.
I agree with you. I think it'll happen right now. Fortunately, India is still an affordable country when it comes to health, and it's a great place, to be doing diagnostics and things like that, right? So they're not cost prohibitive. Certainly not. Also, look, you have to give credit. I mean, it's an amazing ecosystem that we have, because you get test results back on the same day at a very low cost, super reliable quality of labs. All of this is amazing. Where else in the world can you find actually a lot of this? So if you're a person who's interested and saying, I want to take charge actually of my health, in many ways, India is a great country to be able to do that. because these things are very accessible.
I would love for organizations to show this as a differentiated value for someone who would want to work with. Like, hey, we are a culture of
Yeah,
health. We're not just going to sort of give you all these benefits, but we will ensure that you fall into a certain lifestyle. We'll work with you,
yeah.
and all our team members are working like that. So you have a very high chance of also coming on this side and making that happen.
I mean, you go to a lot of places in the world and you
Yeah.
find 90% of the people in the organization are pretty fit and trim, right?
Yes.
And everybody is a runner or a
Mm.
cyclist, or everyone's got these amazing health qualities, and
Yeah.
they're all chasing something or the other, right? but but I think we'll get there. I
Yeah.
think that it's also just about awareness, and very often your look, we all have the ability to be positively influenced by people around us.
Yeah.
So the more such people enter the workplace, the more such people enter society, suddenly you'll be incredibly influenced, and everything improves. What you eat improves, what you do improves. Eating is a big problem, though.
I agree. But that would take another podcast for us to sort of just detail out aspects of eating and things like that. So
Yeah,
I'm
tell
not
me,
touching on
tell
that.
me about it.
Uh, so from a organization standpoint, there are various strategies you would sort of put in place on implementation of programs and doing things. Yet adoption is the real currency, and you talked about how people get dropped on some of these initiatives. What do you think we should do differently to make sure that there is very high level of adoption?
I think you have to be patient,
Okay.
right? So it's not going to be that easy that it's like shooting fish in a barrel, that you just walk in and that organization, everyone is there, like just desperate for some form of health change, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't quite happen like that, because if I go to a fitness club, yes, okay, it'll be super easy, right? That adoption can be very fast. But if I at the workplace, people typically haven't come here to become fit. They've come here to make a living. So it's very diverse.
Yeah.
And it's diverse in everything, in age, in gender, in different walks. People come from different walks of life. They have different priorities. So how do you coalesce all of that diversity to sort of come together to something like this? Takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
but you just got to stay. I think patience is really the ingredient that a lot of people give up on
Yeah.
if they don't see results very fast. But once the results come, it's a bit like training, right? So if you say, I'm going to train people, and training for me, if you have a very transactional view of training, that if I train this person now, I want instant result to see the outcome of that training. Yes, I think a lot of organizations do think of it like that.
Yeah.
But you also know that it's a bit like compounded interest, right? The more you train, the better you get, and that person
Yeah.
is growing significantly more. And it's not always just a very binary view. I think so. Investments in health have a very similar, should have a very similar outlook. And those organizations that have done it have reaped like tremendous rewards, right? So organizations globally have pegged actually the investments around preventive all the way to the inpatient care.
Wow.
So they see actually what those rewards are. But they've been at it for 5 years, 10 years, a long time, and it's also great for the organization, because I tell on the education side, it's interesting. A lot of parents come and say that now it's exam time, right? And so they need to slow down their play
Yeah.
and the sports. And I say, well, if you take that away, do you really think that that time is going to go more into studying, or go into other things? If you must make time, make it away from something else into
Right.
studies. Let them play. Let them have that level of fitness in their lives. Because you see a lot of students, and sometimes many of these students just stop playing at after the age of 15, because after that it's always getting prepared for the business end of
The
life, right? Which is
competitive exams and things like
competitive
that.
exams. And so that's not a great state, because then at that age you basically stop you stop investing in your health. And so parenting plays a big role there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should always encourage that. I don't see the logic between studying and playing. I mean, both things can certainly coexist
Yeah.
at the same time. It doesn't have to be one has to be sacrificed for the other.
So is working and staying fit, right? Staying healthy. So while you're working, you can't totally neglect health. And I like the compounding analogy that you sort of brought in. Like in finances, you would sort of look into it, but health is equal measure.
Well, it's a currency, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if health was a currency, then you know whether you're rich or not a
Mm,
rich man.
mm.
So, or woman for that matter. So you have
Yeah,
to treat it like a currency,
yeah,
actually. Then you really understand it better.
yeah. As a CEO, how would you see to it? Because you also have uh, balance sheet and investor pressures. You have the board to answer to. Where would you peg it? Would you put it on the benefits part of thing, or you'd actually say that no, what, there is a direct EBITDA level correlation to some of these things?
Some things are measurable, definitely. Some things are not, and that is okay. I don't think we need to be in a sort of analysis paralysis mode,
Yeah.
because inherently we all agree that good health is good, right? So having good health is fine. So you need to just accept it sometimes on face value. um, and that's like somebody saying that I invested and I've got so many healthy people, but I've not seen the outcome, right? But the opposite of that is not that you make people very unhealthy, and
Correct.
and also if it doesn't hit your EBITDA, okay, then you say, well, that, it worked out equally fine.
True. True.
So it doesn't really work like that. Though, of course, we are in the business where we have to show results against
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so one of the easy ways to do that actually is through a lot of screenings. You do a lot of early detection of things, and early detection has immeasurable value. So we do early detection of cardiac issues, of metabolic diseases, a lot of oncology nowadays.
Yeah.
And now look at the value of, let's say, an early detection of a breast
Yeah.
cancer or something of that sort. So the value to the employee, to the organization, to the insurance company, for everyone. So it's cost saving, it's time saving, and quite frankly, it's nerve wracking, right? To get it at a much more sort of advanced stage. And these things are a bonus. So when you can give them enough warning signs, right? Especially things like with diabetes,
Yeah.
on changing, their lifestyle. So there are ways to correlate it, but again, the hard correlation sometimes is a bit difficult, where somebody says, okay,
Yeah.
I want to see it right down to the absolute penny.
Mm.
You can do it to an extent, but beyond it, you have to do it a little bit in faith.
Yeah.
And then eventually, if these programs are there for long enough, see, ideally you want people to sort of outgrow the program where it becomes a habit.
True.
And
True.
then you say, well, now it's habitual to me to
Mm.
to want to invest in my health and look after myself.
Yeah.
So that's a means to an end. My dependency starts reducing more and more. And so there are lots of examples in our own organization like that, right? Where people started out because of the tools we gave them.
Yeah.
And over time, they have sort of outgrown it in that sense. And, they're champions of their own health, which is amazing. And now you've got really high performance individuals, in that field of life. And their attachment to the organization is immense, because they feel that they got there largely because of what the organization was able to allow them to do.
Wow. Wow. In our community, who are custodians of the employee well-being part of things, many of them are also a little frustrated because they feel that they're able to take the horse to the water, but the horse doesn't drink, and they're able to make all the investments and put programs, and yet people don't want to change. And there is a bit of that frustration, saying that, what, oh, I've tried so hard, I sort of invested as well, I fought with my management, my CFO, to create a budget, and now people are not using it.
They're not using it.
Yeah, so there is a bit of that frustration as well that people have.
Well, I think that's where organizations like us come in.
Yeah.
So, and that's a really frustrating problem, right? Uptake.
Yes.
Uptake is the first question we
Because
get
you've
asked.
really stood out, right? Like, there could be 10 different things where you could spend budget, and you've sort of said that, what, no, employee wellness is so important, I want to park X amount of dollars. You sign it off from the CFO, you sort of put a mandate, and it's almost like, not just taking the horse to the water, but also taking a bucket and raising it to the mouth as well,
Yeah,
but yet
yeah.
the horse does not drink.
Yeah, but they shouldn't feel bad, because that's describing the entire country in a sense
Yeah.
also, that we all know that
Yeah.
doing certain things are not great for our health,
Correct.
but yet we do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the uptake isn't there. I mean, you look at all parents and families and everyone that we've got around us.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy. But what you need is actually a program around it.
Okay.
So when you do these things without a program, So if it's not structured, if it's not incentivized, if it's not tracked, if it doesn't have data, right? Then actually you're throwing paint at the wall and hoping something sticks. Okay. And so, which is okay because, people are evolving.
Correct.
They will learn what worked and they will learn that, maybe the intent was really good, but it needs a bit more definition, right? It can't just be about creating an access to something. And so some of these things take a little bit more of an effort. And that program style effort, it works incredibly well. Also, while we are a digital first organization, we do always advocate a little bit of physical presence is always good, because that seeing is believing. And a little, and because people have sometimes a little bit of digital fatigue, right?
Yeah.
You're surrounded by so many things and so many offers, and so when you see something actually happening at it, then you can always augment it through the digital offerings. But it totally works, right?
Yeah.
And it's worked immensely for us. The results have just been outstanding wherever we've actually tried that. So we've augmented digital with a little bit of physical. The results are actually they're actually better.
Wow, wow. No, we humans at the end of it, right? We want that physical. We want someone to sort of show that care to us. We want someone to sort of nudge us, push us. And while we have all the digital tools, which are great, they're doing their own job. But at some places, maybe in the entire ecosystem, need those physical touch points and nudges as well.
Yeah, and there's so many ways to do it. I can't even begin to describe. I mean, something as simple as you've got food in the office.
Yeah.
You can just label the food into what's healthy, what's semi-healthy, what's unhealthy, so people can balance out what they want to eat. Something as
Yeah.
basic as that, right? I mean, that is so simple and basic to do. It's not very difficult. So you build awareness.
Yeah.
People assume that that एक बार बता दिया तो awareness हो गया. How can that ever happen, right? Awareness the awareness around health is something that has to just continuously be built upon.
I've always believed that in our community, there's so much role of studying human behavior and psychology,
Yeah.
because many of the answers actually lie over there. Like the example you gave of labeling food, it's also about what's being displayed at an eye level versus at the bottom, or what's the plate size, or what's the serving spoon size. All of that matters.
Yeah.
Which eventually gets people to make some of those choices.
But Pushkar, it requires continuous effort. This is
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying, because my dad has been a diabetic for 30 years. I call him a professional diabetic because he spent a career being a diabetic.
Okay.
And he had a bypass surgery at the age of 42 also, right? So, which is my age now. So, which is unbelievable that, he did all of that at that young age, and he's 72 now. He's fine, but he still doesn't really understand diabetes. So he still struggles, and his thinking is very binary, right? So the thinking is not about here's like a ration, right?
Yeah.
His thinking is that, but why can't I have this? I didn't have this, and so I need to have this because the other day I didn't have this. So everything is very binary,
Yeah.
without taking context into matter, right? Without taking surrounding things into matter. So that's a problem with the question that you also asked earlier, that sometimes why is the uptake not there? Uptake is not there because nobody's able to explain actually why these things are there. You need to actually have professionals that advise why these things are there, why you should do it, why you should not do it. So awareness and understanding grows over a period of time. And the earlier you do it in an age, so really it actually has to start from the home, right?
Yeah.
If it starts from the home, you already have a head start. By the time you get to the workplace and you've never really had this as a conversation at home, then you're learning again, right?
Yeah.
From you're starting a new journey all over again.
Anyways, the amount of time we spend at our workplaces, well, that's a different debate on how many hours we need to work in a week. But there is a big considerable time that we spend at workplaces, and I think a lot of focus can go into making that very healthy and mindful, and all the support and aid that can be built in as part of that environment. Yeah. I want to touch upon your personal journey a bit as well, Shikhar, and especially on some of your education part of things. And I think you went to the Babson School for your
Babson College.
Babson College, yeah. Which is well known for entrepreneurship, and is sort of a preferred choice for a lot of family-run business leaders as well to sort of consider. What was your thought process?
I came from a business family. I grew up in Kuwait, and then I lived in the US, and then in India.
Okay.
The So I think it was in my blood, right? So just seeing my father run his business, and there were very few things in life. I didn't know what I liked or disliked or wanted to do in life, but one of the things I knew for sure is that I wanted to study entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So I was lucky enough to know that very early on, and I told my parents that this is what I want to study. They never heard of Babson at that time because Babson 25 years ago was a much smaller school than what it is today. Today it's like a lot more well renowned, and I think full credit to them. Right place, right time. I mean, entrepreneurship took off like anything, right?
Yes.
We didn't even call it entrepreneurship. We used to call it business management, right?
Okay.
25 years
Yeah,
ago.
of course.
So doing business now,
Mm.
everyone calls it entrepreneurship. So, and that time it wasn't as well known. I sorted out, and I had this very chaotic way of thinking. Like any entrepreneur has these chaotic ideas.
Yeah.
What Babson really helped was organize those, understand basically how do you present those ideas, how do you chase those ideas. So that level of thinking came actually in college, because otherwise the ideas are always a bit scrappy and a bit chaotic, which is a good thing. Also, ideas should not be so pure and so refined.
Yeah, let them flow.
Let them flow, exactly. So so I really enjoyed my time over there. I graduated now more than 20 years ago, right? 21 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Wow. And some of that decision that you took of not doing a generic management but focusing on entrepreneurship is sort of enabling some of the businesses that you are building as an entrepreneur now.
For sure, to
Yeah.
some extent. I think it's been many things in my life. It's been my mentors. It's been my professional education. It's been India. India's been unbelievably generous and kind to me, because I love the opportunities, right? So India is just unbelievably chaotic and also opportunistic at the same time. So if you can find a way, if you can find a way to weave
Yeah.
that together, I don't think there's a better country actually out there. So I loved, though I didn't grow up in India, but when I moved here when I was 21, and I mean I hit the ground running. I mean I loved everything that India had to offer, because it was bursting with ideas, it was bursting with people. It was like a melting pot of people from different diversities, different cultures,
Yeah.
and I loved really everything about it. So I was able to use some of that education, some of the training, some of the values my parents had instilled on what I want to do, what I don't want to do. I had a lot of fun doing it. Yeah, I'm still having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's how it should be, right? Entrepreneurship is all about having fun, because anyways you face so low lows and high highs that and they happen on the same day. so
Yeah, and
so you should have fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
you learn not to take yourself too seriously also. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I've learned that in a very hard way, and I'm like, okay, it's okay. There's a new sunrise tomorrow. We'll figure it out, and not everything is in your hand.
That's true.
Yeah, sometimes surrender is blissful as well.
Hmm.
Things are not in your hand. It's okay. Tomorrow we'll figure it out.
I think that's a pretty good way to look at life. I agree with that completely.
and and you were a sports enthusiast as well.
Yeah,
Still are.
still am. Yes,
Yeah.
well, very failingly now. Body's falling apart, but I'm
Mhm.
trying.
Yeah, yeah. What excites you most? Football, cycling?
Football is hard now. I mean, I used to play a lot. Once in a while, I do play with students, but it's really hard. They're half my age, so it's pretty hard to keep up with them. I do a lot of cycling, do a lot of running, do a lot of yoga, and I'm open to trying, really anything. Though I hated the idea. I recently started pickleball. I
Oh,
mean, I thought like this is a sport I'm never going to do, but I've actually really liked it. So
really?
again, yeah, so never judge a book by its cover. I was proven wrong. It's actually a pretty fun game.
I'm going to pick it up. We have a court in our condo,
Yeah.
and I have been a fence sitter saying that maybe it's not for me, but yeah.
No, it's a lot of fun. Actually, it's the because anyone can pick it up. It's super easy to pick up.
Hmm.
So what I do now is when I bike, because I can't do it 2 days back to back. So I'll bike, and then the next day I'll try to do like a pickleball. Then the day after that I'll do something else. And so yeah. Otherwise, at like 40s when you start pushing like that, and these injuries happen, and then it's a pain because the recovery from the injuries takes a long time.
I'm getting there, almost.
Yeah,
So we'll
yeah, we'll
definitely
sign
do
you
that.
up. By the way, we have a race. There's an ACL cyclothon
Hmm.
in Noida in March,
Oh,
so we'll
really?
sign you up for that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
I love cycling in different cities around the world,
come.
and
It's an amazing race. All the
mhm.
roads are closed.
Okay.
It's 50 kilometers,
Hmm.
and you can do 50, you can do 27, you can do 15,
Wow.
whatever you prefer.
Wow.
It's sponsored by HCL.
Okay.
It's about 2,500 cyclists, and it is, I mean, energy packed. It's amazing. Like it's the energy is just magical.
Wow.
People are singing songs.
Wow.
People are doing their personal best. It's amazing.
I'll definitely sign up. Normally on a weekend I would do the Gurgaon Faridabad stretch
Yeah,
because that does
but this is a
the
race,
yeah.
but it'll be fun. Though I've done it now for
I'll
five
come for the
years.
fun part of it. I don't know about the race part of it.
Arey yaar, who's gonna win? It's not like it's
Correct.
not like you and I in it to win it, right?
Sure.
It's just the high of actually doing that race.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I like that. I
yeah,
like that.
it's
You
good
should.
fun.
If you were to restart this journey again, right? Going back on the healthcare and the education, would you do something different?
They both have been very kind and generous to me. I've learned a great deal about uh, people actually through that. I don't think there's any other space which would have given me that understanding of people at a very deep level.
Okay.
Because I think these two spaces are, they're very people and very behavior centric.
Yes.
I can't really think of a third space which would have done that. And I love working with people. I love the team that I have. I
Yeah.
love the people I'm surrounded with. So I'm very blessed and grateful for that. So I don't know if I want to change it. Maybe I would have added in some kind of sports at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I don't want to ruin something I love, right? Through making it a profession. So all the sports stuff we do really is non-profit. So
Okay.
we sponsor the squash federation, we sponsor the cycling federation. So, but it's all non-profit. We try to do it, hoping that all of these things actually add to wellness and preventive health, and we're hoping that the country should take it up. Like the cycling race when we started, we had only 800 in the first year. Now we got 3,000.
Wow.
Look at I mean, India is just it's completely growing in different nuggets, right? It's amazing actually all these journeys which are taking place, but they're not always really visible.
Yeah. Someone needs to set the ball rolling, and then eventually, it
Yeah,
will.
so somebody has to light the fire.
Yeah.
So we think of ourselves to be guys like that. We can help do that, and that energy is cyclical, right? So we draw when we see that success, it gives us also more enthusiasm to want to do more.
Wow. Wow. This is almost sounding like People Matters journey because a lot of our work is on those lines where we truly believe that we want to create a change in the community, and we would play our role, and how it sort of evolves, it evolves, but we have a certain role to play, and very proud to build this from India, now around the world in certain countries. But yeah, that's our role, right? And patience, I think that's the key, that the result will not come overnight.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And the People Matters events that I've been to have been extremely memorable. So people are there more out of curiosity, which is actually I think the highest form of intelligence, right, that you can have. So if people are genuinely curious and wanting to learn, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
to create that environment is actually very special.
Yeah, no, we've been blessed to have some great partners, great community members who've sort of always rallied behind whatever we are trying to do, and then it sort of becomes a movement on its own. So you play that little role, and you sort of keep on building and contributing. I think that's what purpose plays a huge role. If you are driving the purpose, if you are chasing something larger, then everyone rallies along as well. Lovely, lovely to have you on this conversation, Shikhar, and wish you all the best for all the amazing things that you build. And you've really chosen two very difficult areas in India: healthcare and education. And I always say this, that in India, you don't know who's going to sort of solve for it. Is it the individuals and institutions, government? And having a play in that and doing work is incredible. So
Thank you,
best
Pushkar.
wishes.
This was great. Actually, just talking and asking me is making me reflect about some of my own answers. But maybe we'll have this conversation when you and I are racing an HCL cyclothon side by side. Okay.
All right.
On the bike.
Challenge accepted.
All right, done. Okay, so we've got you down for it. But this was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Lovely.